might be wondering, why isn't Orisa seeing play at the pro level? She was pretty darn powerful, a little bit hard to figure out for the beginning of the beta. A lot of people struggled with her in quick play. She's done okay in some of the pugs that were public that people would have seen with tier 2 and tier 3 players. What's going on? Why isn't she being played? Well, this actually isn't unusual at all, that you would find a hero, effectively a new hero in Orisa, not being played when she's first released. If heroes are released and are both new and not obviously OP, they don't really see play at the top level. Some of this is, oh, hey, people need some time to master them before they're better than the heroes like Diva, Tracer, Widowmaker that they've already put time into and already gotten really good at. But some of it is just, hey, it's too much of a risk and they're not willing to take this risk to go ahead and get better. You get in a situation where, hey, if you're already in Owl, you've got a decent salary, you might be the 15th best team, the 18th best team, the 12th best team. You're doing okay. You'd like to get your contract renewed, even if you're doing sort of poorly down here at 18, 15, something like that. You're still going, if we convert over and try something new, different than all the other teams are doing, we might find that, let's pretend every team is playing GOATs and it's a 100-step ladder, and the best you could be at GOATs would be 100, maybe Shock and Titans were somewhere in the 90s. Cool. And then other teams would be in the 50s, maybe a couple at the 70s, a lot of them down at the 30s, not very good at it. Cool. Why are these teams in the 30s not going and converting over and playing a different comp? Well, the problem is if you try some other comp, if you get creative, you're going to have to invest a lot of time in it to get towards the top of it. And you might discover, once you get to step 50 or so, that it capped out at step 60. Oh, that's not very good. And now all this time that other teams were getting from step 30 to step 50, you now are still back on step 15, step 20, whatever, and are now way behind. And instead of being team 15 in the league, you are now definitively team 20 in the league. And that's not great. So there's really too much to lose there. You've already got something. There's too much to lose. It makes more sense to do some mimicry until you've seen success out of other teams. And that's why the innovation actually comes out of tier 2, generally lower tier 2, or tier 3. And this actually happened since we're using GOATs. We'll continue to use that as an example. GOATs itself came out of a tournament in North America that was being played between, it was a third-party tournament that had invited top tier 3 teams and some tier 2 teams. If we're looking at quad DPS, because that was one of the ways to fight GOATs, that came out of Korean Trials, literally the spot that exists between tier 2 and tier 3, the proving grounds there. We've also seen stuff like Clockwork Vendetta. Again, that was an anti-GOATs thing played during the GOATs era. And hey, that again was something where that didn't get, it wasn't that Clockwork Vendetta was a top tier 2 team and chose to start playing something else. No, Clockwork Vendetta from tier 3, from Open Division, played their funny comp all the way through and got to the top of their tier 2 scene. So that tends to be how that sort of worked. And if you want to look at Owl and the Chinese teams who were doing more anti-GOAT stuff than any of the other regions, that's actually because their tier 2 scene resisted GOATs harder than anyone else. So again, the experimentation tends to come from the tier 2, tier 3 area where these players and orgs and teams have less to lose. They're not already doing okay. They're not, oh, well, if we hold on, we might get our contract renewed, or, oh, if we, we're close, we can just grind it through and we'll get picked up. No, the bottom of tier 2 or the top of tier 3 is actually quite far away from the top of tier 2, and that's quite far away from Owl, which is where you can actually sustain. So there's very little to lose by trying something new, by reaching for more there, and that's where we would expect Orisa experimentation to come from. And if those of you are going, hey, wait, Temporal, you're saying all this about Orisa, but it doesn't make sense. Here's Dante on screen playing Doomfist. What's going on? That should have been the same case as Orisa. It was a rework. It wasn't as big of a rework, but yes, it was a rework. But the other thing that's going on is DPS rosters are a little more crowded, tends to be in the Overwatch League than some of the tank stuff, at least this season. And any DPS player can go, hey, I'm worried about whether I'm going to get any or much play time. playtime as the third or the fourth DPS on a team. So you know what? I have a good Doomfist. Let me go ahead and hard grind that, because if it's really good, I think I have better potential of getting in like that and getting playtime like that than I do as the third, the fourth DPS. I'm not saying Dante would have struggled with playtime on this team, but Dante will tell you himself that he started playing Doomfist because another team's DPS was playing Doomfist, and they were probably doing it for a reason like that. So a little bit different of a case with Doomfist. Also a smaller rework. But what about Orisa specifically? Like, does she actually have any problems? Like, is that why she's not being immediately seen as super OP? Well, no, she might be perfectly fine. Like, if we want to talk about the good things about Orisa, she's got quite a bit of brawl power to her, quite a bit of bulk. She's got a ranged stun, and we've really seen the value of that with Ana's sleep dart in this world where shutting down ults is so incredibly powerful. So that's really important. And that javelin spin does a really good job of peeling for her backline when dives come in, better than, say, Sigma's rock or something like that. So she's got some pretty good tools. On the other hand, Brawl has a questionable future. It really suffers more than other comps do from the one tank Overwatch 2 world, and that's not great for her. Her poke is also on the weak side, which again, not the best thing in the world, and using either one of her defensive abilities really puts her in the hole a bit. Yes, she has two defensive abilities. She has Fortify and Javelin Spin, but if she uses either one in the poke phase, she really now doesn't have the brawl phase that she needs, and that's a problem. So she's got two defensive abilities, that's nice, but it's not as flexible as Ryan's Shield, which you can use some of, and then it starts recharging. It's not, I've used it, and now I can't put my shield back up for 8 seconds, or Diva's DM, where she can use a tick at a time, and then it starts recharging. Her stuff is much closer to old Diva, where Diva would put her DM up, and then as soon as she put it down, it was gone. It was on full cooldown. That Diva was terrible and never saw play. She's a little better than that because she has her defenses split between two different abilities, but those are on 10 and 12 second cooldowns. That's a long time. You use either one, you really can't now make the play that you'd like to make on her. So that's really kind of what's going on here. If you're looking and going, hey, I think Orisa's just fine, why isn't she being played? She should be. You may be totally correct. Again, look towards Tier 2, Tier 3 for that innovation. We do now have an announcement of when the summer Tier 2 is going to happen, so we could be seeing some Orisa there. Look forward to it. If you guys are enjoying the content, drop a like, consider subscribing for more Overwatch 2 content, news, thought-provoking stuff like this, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks. Temporal out.